Dear friends, today we'll be preparing an extremely rich and colorful dessert, a mainstay of Sicilian cuisine that goes back to the time when Sicily was under the control of the Muslims. We're talking about the cassata. Let's make it together! Ingredients for the filling: 2 1/3 cups of vanilla powdered sugar, 3 1/2 ounces of dark chocolate chips, about 5 cups of sheep ricotta, 1.8 ounces of candied orange peel, optional. For the sponge cake, just under 2 1/2 cups of flour, 1 1/2 cups of sugar, 1 pinch of salt, 10 medium eggs. For the fondant icing, 3 cups of powdered sugar and water as needed. For decorating, 7 ounces of marzipan, 1 tablespoon of pistachio paste, whole mixed candied fruit. For the royal icing, 1 egg white and 1 1/4 cups of vanilla powdered sugar. For the soaking syrup, 2/3 cup of water, a couple of strips of lemon zest, 1/4 cup of sugar, 1 shot of liqueur. The day before serving the cassata, you can make the sponge cake. To prepare the sponge cake, first separate the egg whites from the yolks. Divide the sugar into 2 parts, then beat the egg yolks with half of the sugar for at least 10–15 minutes with a whisk attachment, and do the same with the egg whites and the other half of the sugar. Take care to beat the egg whites until firm but not stiff. After that, gently fold the 2 mixtures together and sift in the flour, stirring gently from bottom to top to incorporate more air. Place the resulting mixture in a rectangular pan, about 10 inches wide by 14 inches long, and bake at 350 degrees for about 40 minutes. Still the day before, you can roughly mix the ricotta cheese with the powdered sugar and let it rest in the fridge overnight, covered with cling film. Now place the ricotta mixture in a fine strainer and press it down with a spatula to remove any lump. After it's been strained, repeat this step once more to make it as smooth as possible. And now we can add the dark chocolate chips to this amazing ricotta filling. Mix together and keep in the fridge until it's time to use it. The one in front of me is the traditional cassata pan. It's a pan with flat sides, a slightly raised bottom, and measures 12 inches at its widest diameter. Slice the sponge cake horizontally to get a 1/2 inch thick layer, then cut it into strips, about 2 1/3 inches wide, to line the sides of the pan. So let's start. Then cut the strips into trapezoids, because the pan has flat sides, so you don't have to make rectangles, but a trapezoidal shape with one side shorter than the opposite side. If some pieces are too thick, slice them thinner with a knife. Now cut the remaining sponge cake into 2 thinner layers to form the bottom and top layer of the cake. A small one and a large one. To make the small circular base, just press the pan into the sponge cake and cut it out. Here it is. Now take the green marzipan and cut into shapes the same size as before, at least 2 1/3 inches tall. You can make the green marzipan by kneading 1 tablespoon of pistachio paste into the almond paste. If you can't find pistachio paste, you can use green food coloring. So sprinkle the work surface with powdered sugar, roll it out to a thickness of 1/2 inch, and cut into trapezoids. Sprinkle the pan with powdered sugar and line the sides with alternate trapezoids. As you can see, if you place a piece of sponge cake with the long side up, the following piece of marzipan will be placed with the long side down. Lay the sponge cake over the marzipan so that no space is left between them. Now line the bottom with a circle of sponge cake, pale side facing down. As you can see, the other pieces of sponge cake face in the same direction, but some people do the opposite, that is, with the brown side facing out. Press it down to adhere. Then even out the sides. Soak the sponge cake with a soaking syrup, made by dissolving the sugar in water, adding some lemon or orange zest, and finally a shot of liqueur. I used maraschino, but you can choose any you like. Now fill the pan with a chocolate chip ricotta filling. And spread it evenly, of course. Cover the filling with the remaining sponge cake. And now, moisten with the syrup and let it rest in the fridge for at least a couple of hours, or even overnight if you have time. It's time to turn the cassata over, so cover with a plate and reverse it. Now move on to the icing. In a small saucepan, combine the sugar with just enough water to get a thick white mixture. This will be the fondant icing to cover the cassata. As soon as it comes to a simmering point, remove from the heat and pour it over the cake. We're ready to ice the cassata, so pour the icing over the center and spread it out. Work quickly because it hardens fast, and you don't want the layer to be too thick. Do the same on the sides. The candied fruit is a must for topping the cassata. As you can see, it's very colorful, so you can get creative and decorate to taste. The most distinctive ingredient to garnish the cassata is candied pumpkin, called zuccata, that you can cut into strips, fold in this way, and arrange on top in a flower pattern. As a finishing touch, you can further embellish it with royal icing, made by beating an egg white until stiff and adding the powdered sugar a little at a time. Place in a pastry bag and decorate as you like. Well, what can I say? This dessert speaks for itself. Happy Easter everybody with a Sicilian cassata, and see you next video recipe!